Hello and welcome to the Story X Story podcast, where we discuss stories across pop culture plus help you create your own. My name is Nigel. I'm the co-founder of the manga brand mayamada, and we're here for a bonus episode of our podcast in collaboration with Comic Conline, where I'm going to be talking to some of the creators that are taking part in the online convention, just finding out more about their work, their journeys, and what they'll be doing for the convention. So right now, I'm speaking to colorist and illustrator Enrica Angiolini. Erin, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
Cool, no problem. Thanks for being here. Before we get into sort of peppering you with questions, just want to remind people that are new to our podcast that you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts from. And you can also send us your feedback at feedback@mayamada.com, or just shout at us on social media at mayamada on Twitter and at mayamadatees on Instagram. And now let's get to know our guest. So, Erin, you began your career as a colorist, and I see here that you've worked on some big titles. So you've worked on titles for Titan Comics, for Image Comics, and you've also collaborated on a creator-owned comic, Temerity, which was successfully funded through Kickstarter in 2019. Did I get all that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Those are definitely like the big titles that I've worked on so far.
Yeah.
I'm still working on some of them. Definitely Temerity. We're still working on the second chapter of that, and then I also work on Doctor Who, and I worked on Warhammer 40k. So quite a few cool titles that I hope your audience will know.
Cool. If they don't already, they will by the end of this. So we're going to get into some of that. All right. So you're a colorist and illustrator. So just can you describe your art style as an artist, and any influences that you've picked up along the way?
Well, so I definitely say that I've mixed a lot of influences in what I do, being from Italy and then from Europe, and growing up in a family that is very, very creative and loves lots of arts in different art forms. And I grew up with lots of art books, lots of beautiful European comics, a little bit of American comics when I started growing up, and Japanese manga as well. So I would like to say that I took from many different things. And I also really like movies and TV series, like looking at movie photography and the use of color in all different media. So I practice photography as well. So I'd like to say that I am a bit of like traditional classic art, and then a bit of European comics, and then the great funky, crazy manga and anime work, and then lots of superhero stuff. And just, I take inspiration from a lot of just things that I like and watch and listen to every day.
Cool.
And my style, when I illustrate, is kind of like semi-realistic, so it's not like full-on realism, but I bring a little bit of that realism into kind of a more creative and fantasy vision of reality.
Okay. Yeah, I like the sound of that. And yeah, I've seen some of the work on your website. It looks really cool. And
thank you.
So you touched on sort of manga influences. Obviously, I make manga. So we're going to have to just stop there and talk a bit more about that. Do you have any particular favorite manga or anime series or films?
So I would definitely say that probably among the biggest influences for me, especially when I had my big manga and anime period, it was definitely Takeshi Obata is one of my favorite among all. I like, of course, the classic Ghibli feel, those beautiful backgrounds and like just the detail, and there's lots of maybe less known comics and manga, depending on how you want to specifically call them, that I loved. Like Mushishi was one of my favorite things that I've ever read, and it was beautiful, and it was just very poetic and just a bit out of the mainstream shonen type of thing.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed a lot of different things, from like very classic Berserk to Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. So like there's lots of crazy little things that just makes in a way that maybe you wouldn't expect. But I liked many different styles.
Cool. Yeah, I actually only watched Gurren Lagann like the beginning of this year. It's just amazing. Like just like jumped to the top of my list. We're not going to talk about that, otherwise we'll take up all the time talking about that. But so and you mentioned you grew up in a creative family. So like, so I work with a lot of young people, and I know the importance of like family support, particularly for creative endeavors. And I know sometimes sort of young people don't always get that, and other people don't realize the value of it. So for you, what was the impact that had on your career growing up in a creative family?
I think I owe my parents a lot, especially both from just an inspiration point of view. So like I've always had lots of books and things that I could look at, and just they weren't like too like, oh, don't touch my comics, don't touch this, don't touch that. It was just like it was very at my disposal, and it was amazing that I grew up reading incredible things. And at the same point, when growing up, I've always liked foreign languages, and that's my academic career. I have a degree in Japanese language and culture, so I did.
Wow.
That was my thing. I studied languages because I wanted to. My parents were always very supportive also for that. But I also always continued drawing and doing little commissions. When I started like in high school, I started doing commissions on DeviantArt, and then like different forums online and social media. And then the way in which my career started was kind of like just a good opportunity that I grabbed, but I wasn't pointing towards doing this for a living. But when the opportunity showed up, my parents were very supportive, and they still are. And I think it really makes a lot of difference. And I'm really glad when I hear young, creative folks who have parents who support them. I would say if you don't have parents who appreciate and support that, it can be very difficult. And I would suggest maybe trying to find maybe friends or like people who share your passions, and try and get that support from a different direction, because it really is very, very important. And I'm really sorry that I know that some people don't have that kind of strength and push behind them.
Yeah, no, that's good that you did have that. So jumping forward a number of years, I wanted to talk about your creator-owned project, Temerity, and sort of what that process was like. Because you launched that through Kickstarter. I've done a few Kickstarters to mixed results. I'll be honest, it's not always gone well. What was that process like for you to launch an original comic, and what stage is it at now? And actually, sorry to cut you. I should also ask, what is it about? Let's start there. What is the story about?
Okay, let's start there. So, Temerity is a sci-fi action story with comedy and lots of adventure, and it's the story of two main characters, Naya and Peru, who are very, very different from two very different people in the galaxy, and they have very different missions, and they kind of clash into each other, and that begins kind of their adventure. We're still, I won't say much because we're still kind of in the preliminary phases of the story. We still haven't jumped into the full plot right now. Okay. But basically, what we're doing is we are producing the comic through kind of like the 22-page standard American size comic. And we published it online on Webtoons. So if you're curious about the story and the artwork and everything, it's completely free to read on Webtoons. You just look for Temerity. Or you can find us on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. It's very easy to find. And basically we published the first chapter, so the first 22 pages on Webtoons, and then we did the Kickstarter. And
so the Webtoons came first.
Yes, we released, I think, half of it, and then we did the Kickstarter, and then we continued publishing it online. Okay. So yeah, the Kickstarter is to have the printed edition of the comic, because we don't really have a distribution. We don't, you can't find it in comic shops, so it was to have the printed version of the comic. And it was very good. I mean, I was very, very, very happy to see that it was very popular. We funded quite quickly. I will say Gemma Young, the writer, had to endure most of the difficult parts of setting up the Kickstarter, and she was great. And so yeah, it was a lot of, you have to be very careful with how you share and where you share, and just keep the hype up, because it is a difficult thing to do.
It's a long process. It's an intense process.
It's very intense. So even if you get funded, you're always someone might cancel their pledge, and then what did you do? What happened? So
someone can cancel during, and then when it comes time to collect the money,
at the end,
then you can also have failed. But it's a minefield.
Yeah, it's very stressful. So I would suggest anyone who wants to do that, do your research. If you're unsure, maybe there's lots of agents and companies who can help you do that. And so I would say, if you're very unsure, I would say ask a professional, because it is a difficult thing to do. Or if you have friends that have done it, ask for suggestions, and try to be very zen about it, because it is very stressful. So don't look at the numbers constantly, because it's going to drive you crazy. Yeah,
I think it's one of those it's a bit of a cliche, but the whole it's a marathon, not a sprint kind of applies here, where you need to take, if it's a 30-day campaign, you need to take the whole 30 days and look at how you're going to approach each day, and try and keep calm. Yeah, exactly. I say this, I'm a hypocrite, because I fail at that each time, but that's that's the advice.
I absolutely agree. Yes.
Yeah. So then you've done, so you even as you've launched this comic, you've used a number of platforms, obviously on social media, and in terms of artists, sort of starting today, aspiring artists who want to put out a comic, what advice would you give for the best way, or maybe combination of ways, to get your work out in 2020? Because there are just so many different ways to reach people, but it's still not an easy thing to do to build an audience. What would you suggest?
True. So there's, as you were saying, which is absolutely correct, there's lots and lots of ways to share your work. And if you're willing, if you want to share a comic, if you're doing your own webcomic yourself or with a group of people, I would suggest try and maybe go on on Webtoons or Tapas, which are platforms that are specifically made for webcomics. You can of course create your own site, which is cool, because you get to choose exactly what goes on it and what doesn't. Well, when you're hosting it somewhere else, of course, there's ads and there is the menu. You can't really change the site itself. But of course, creating your own site takes a lot of time. It could take a lot of money, depending on what platform you're using.
Yeah,
while hosting it on.
And yes, it does.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, even for my portfolio, I bought my own domain and everything, and that already is a lot of time and money. But so continuously updating and making sure that it doesn't break, that everything works, it's a tough job. So I would suggest probably going for something like Webtoons or Tapas, which already provide you with the structure. I would suggest probably trying to do a little bit of research on the platform that you choose, and what kind of maybe subject, what kind of comic go better there, what kind of layout, because some sites use the classic page format, some use the scrolling layout. So try and check what would fit your idea, your story better, what kind of if you think you have a romance story and that it goes better on one platform than the other, then just go for the one that makes it easier for you, because it will take some time. And be very patient. it takes time, be constant. So I would suggest, so I'm working on other webcomics at the moment, work for hire jobs. And, we are building, like we're working on a lot of chapters right now before launching to make sure that when we do launch, we don't have to go crazy every week. Oh my God, the new page, the new update, because that is a lot of work. So even if you think, it's I can do a page in a week or like 2 pages depending on, or like a update a week. But life is complicated. So you could do it for the first month, maybe if you're really good and crazy, and you can, but something is going to get in your way. So plan ahead, be patient, and don't focus on the numbers too much at the beginning, because it will take time and it's not going to just happen in one night. So just keep putting your stuff out, focus on getting good material and share it. Make sure that people know where to find you, know like what dates you're going to publish, and just you have to be quite organized. So do that.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I think in all these things, in the beginning in particular, it's about building like your community, because even with something like Kickstarter, I know unless you're sort of so well established and everything, you can't just launch your Kickstarter and expect everyone to find you. It's about, who can you get to the page, and then even like you're saying with something like Webtoons, it's free, but that tends to mean that then anyone can do it. So now you're in amongst everyone. So how do you find your audience within that? So yeah, I definitely second that, and just say try and narrow in on the audience for your work, and just like serve and
as you were saying, create a community. So like before you launch, try and like show material. Say like, this is the characters. They will be in my comic that I will launch next month or in 2 months, and like start building interest and talk to people, reply to comments. It's a lot of work, but it will pay off.
Yeah. Cool. All right then. So I mentioned at the top that you've done some work for Titan Comics and Image, and I saw that you worked on a Doctor Who comic, and it was an all-women creative team for a Doctor Who title, and that was Titan Comics. Is that Titan? Cool.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, what did it mean for you, like, to work on an all-female creative team for a comic?
It was very nice, because we're still doing it, so I'm still working on it. Always with Titan, so it's the 13th Doctor Who comic. We are now in season 2. It's been slightly delayed, of course, due to everything that's happening, but we're on it. But yeah, I was very glad. I had already worked with Titan on Warhammer 40k, which was my big first series with them. And when I finished that, my editor offered me to join the Doctor Who team. And I was very excited, because I thought it was, unfortunately, comics is still very unbalanced when it comes to possibilities for creators. So there's lots and lots of white men doing mostly everything. So as a huge supporter of having lots of different voices in comics, and I was very pleased that Titan was actually taking a step into that direction. I will say that they already have a very varied range of creators from different countries. There's lots of women. So I was very pleased that they were just stepping a bit more into just trying to find and bring more balance and bring different voices into it. And especially with the 13th Doctor being a woman, I think they just wanted to work on that. But I know that they chose a big group of people who are they had already worked with, and they know that they could trust, and they were doing good work. So I'm very much for hiring women or black creators or minorities, but I really want that to be like, we're hiring you because you're a very good artist and we value what you do. And I was very pleased to see that that's what Titan was doing. Like they were putting together a group that was not just there for like, we have another creative female team, hooray, but they were actually supporting and believing in the product that we were creating together. So that was really good, and it was really cool to be and it still is very cool to be a part of that.
Nice. Yeah. No, I agree. It's like you want to see more diversity, but then you don't just want to diversity for diversity's sake. You want to give talented creators the opportunities wherever they are coming from. So yeah, that's good that they're doing that. And I know Image as well have a lot of they are sort of creator focused publisher, and because of that, you get a lot of diversity in the types of people and the types of stories that are made. So yeah, definitely good to see more of that. Actually, a question I probably should have asked at the beginning, but could you actually clarify what a colorist does? Like, so what is your role in the process?
So basically what Colourist does is you bringing the black and white page that you've you generally see either the finished, like the beautiful Marvel book with all the colors and the effects and everything. Yeah. And then you see like the super cool black and white pages that people maybe share on social media or on their portfolios. And basically what I do is bring one to the other. So like I take the black and white page and I color it. I use digital media, so I work in Photoshop. In the French market, European market, there are still a few people that color traditionally, but that's a very, very different approach because time is very different. We work on at least like on Doctor Who, I work on monthly issues, so I need to color 22 pages of Doctor Who in usually it's about 20 days. Yes, and I generally work on two or three comics at the same time. So it's generally, I produce between 40 and 60 pages a month. And some colorists do many more. Yeah. So the process is basically I get the black and white page and then I have my assistant, my flatters, who basically put the blue sky is always blue and the green on the trees and then the blue on the jacket of the character and the blonde in the hair. So they basically fill in with the basic color that I give them the page. Okay. And then I do all the rendering. So I add the shadows, I add the light, I add the special effects, I work on the atmospheres, on everything. Yeah. So yeah, that's what Colourist does. Not everyone has an assistant or everything, but especially if you work in a monthly delivery kind of schedule, that helps a lot because it cuts down 1 or 2 hours of work. And so so I pay someone else to do that, and then I can actually spend the time to color because so some of my pages take about an hour and a half. Others take 3 hours and a half to color. Wow. Okay. So if you add 1 or 2 hours to that, it's for each page is quite a lot more.
It adds up quickly. Wow. And so then when you're adding the colors, are you getting instruction from the illustrator or is it like left to you to just like color it how you see fit?
For something like Doctor Who, for example, or like Power Rangers, or like something that is like, that the Power Rangers have those colors, and like the Doctor is always dressed in the same way. Being
some things you can't mess with.
Usually I get given by the publisher a palette, so like a range of colors. So like, for example, the coat always has to be this color, and then the hair always has to be more or less this color. So that's like my base that I have, like the easy part of it. And then you fill the rest with the script. So for example, if I have the script and it's like a night scene, I know that like all the colors are probably going to be a bit bluish or purpley or a bit like toned down. If it's a sunny bright day, I'm going to make like the colors very vibrant and very saturated and very like shiny, beautiful colors. So that's the part of it is given by like the kind of character you're working on. And the kind of like, for me working on franchises, of course, you have to be more specific to the clothes, the kind of outfit that they were always wearing. But like, for example, in Temerity, I know what the characters are wearing, but if there is just a new random character, I could give the random character the colors that I prefer, unless it's specified this is a green skin alien, so then I'm going to make the skin green. But generally, it's a balance between knowing like the information of the character you're working with and the atmosphere and the subjects and the script, what the script tells you, and then the rest is just like I bring that all together with my vision, and so I decide like where the shadows are, or how the light bounces on something, how what kind of effects I want to use, what kind of colors, and so it's a mix of information that I'm given and information that I fill in myself.
Cool. Okay, and as you're also an illustrator, and you can be honest with this, have you ever had the urge to potentially redraw a page that you've been given, because you might do it in a different style? You don't have to name any names, but you know. No.
I've had some issues in which maybe I don't agree with some of the stylistic choices, or like the rendering or the hatching. I never really had the urge to change anything, because I know my job is to color. I don't really draw comic pages, but unfortunately, more than once, I personally, but a colorist happens quite a lot. Colorists, like, we are asked to like, oh, the penciler made this mistake. Can you correct it? Just like, that's exactly part of my job. Yeah, sure. So yeah, unfortunately, it's one of the things that happens quite a bit. Like, I don't know, the character should have a bracelet and they forgot to add it. So like, could you just put it yourself? So, yeah, sure. Okay. But yes, that unfortunately happens a bit to me and several colleagues. But no, I mean, generally, I don't mess or like change anything unless I see like a very big mistake and say that it's like a huge continuity problem. Then I'm probably gonna say something and hope that the artist doesn't change it, not me.
All right, so then obviously we're in this situation where we are still kind of at home, can't do events, and that's what's led us to the Comic Conline that you are taking part in. So what do you have planned for Comic Conline? And yeah, pretty much what have you got planned for the weekend of the event?
So I've been very, very happy to be invited to take part, because I've joined the wonderful staff 2 years ago at the Amsterdam Comic Con. So I'm sad that I can't be there physically with them, but it's nice to get back together with the whole group. And I will have a page on the Comic Con official site, so you can find me there as I think it's Enrica Angiolini or Erin Angiolini. I don't remember which one of my names they used. But you can find me there, and you will be able to check some of my special items that I will have produced especially for the convention. So I will have some sketched blank comic issues. I will have some limited edition prints. You can order some digital sketch commissions by me. And you can also find on my page, on the Comic Con site, the link to my official site, where I will be offering more material with a special discount for the duration of the convention.
Cool. All right, and then outside... And
I will probably do a live stream, sorry. I'll probably do a live stream, but I still don't know exactly when. I'll probably do like a coloring demonstration or something like that. So if you're interested in what we were saying earlier about the process, you can probably come and check it out.
Cool. All right, yeah, we can look out for that. I'm sure like it will come out at some point. They'll slot you in and people can check that out. And outside of Comic Conline, where can people find you? Social media, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can find me. My main two platforms are Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at Erin Angiolini, and I am Lady Erin on Instagram. And then you can also check out my website, which is www.enricaangiolini.com. And there you can see my illustrations, my colorist portfolio, my list of publications, and also it's not open at the moment, but I have a shop that I open temporarily, and I always say on my social media when I'm going to open, so it's not just going to be a sudden and then it's gone. Okay, yeah. So if you check out my social media, you can find out more about that. But yeah, those are my. I also stream on Twitch, always as Lady Adam. You can find me there on Mondays and Fridays, 5 p.m. London time, usually.
Cool. I like that. You've got
yeah.
the timings and everything. That's
yes.
proper professional.
That is not just for webcomics, even if you're streaming. Try to be consistent.
Cool. All right. No, thank you for joining me, and thanks for giving us an insight into your work and some of the projects that you've got going on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure. And if anyone has any questions or doubt, feel free to contact me on social media, and we can chat about things that you are interested in.
Cool. Fantastic. All right, and I just want to remind listeners that this is a bonus episode of our podcast, and we have sort of regular episodes that are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, if you enjoyed this talk, you can check out some of our other interviews and deep dives into stories across pop culture. We are also taking part in the Comic Conline, so this interview series is part of the collaboration that we're doing. And then I'm pretty sure I also have a page with some stuff, some of our manga. I should have been more prepared, but yeah, you can find us in that. And then the week after Comic Conline, we are having our own online event, Gamepad Online, which is focused more on video games. But yeah, we're going to have some cosplay in that. So you can check that out at gamepad.events. Our email address is feedback@mayamada.com. You can also go to our website where we have episodes and the abilities to subscribe. That is mayamada.com/storyxstory. Until next time, take care and stay safe.